All right, let's make a video. My name is Scott Wilhite. This is a channel I created, or account if you're not on YouTube, for the purpose of bringing awareness to rape myth acceptance. I've got other videos that explain what happened. In short, Dusty Rene Broadfoot from Rockwall, Texas, is a deviant sexual predator and child rapist. She also raped me 9 times in 2006. Serial rape. That's my dog. That's the noise you hear. I've got a bug zapper that may go off too. So I'm not going to go into too much detail about that. My other videos explain this. There's videotape of it. So my allegations are backed up by what's called incontrovertible evidence. I reported these crimes to the police in 2007. I reported it to first Carl Osselbrook. He's the only one with jurisdiction besides the Rockwall County District Attorney. Osselbrook made fun of me. Literally. He said, well, he refused to open an investigation. He told me that, and then recommended that I take my concern to the Lieutenant of Internal Affairs in Rockwall. And I said, okay, who is that? And he said, it's me. And then he chuckled. That's what I mean. I reported it to the only person who has jurisdiction, and that's what he did. And I've got video of it. He didn't even look at the video. And by the way, Dusty Broadfoot, who was Dusty Miller at that time, she was Dusty Coursey when I first met her. She's social media influencer Reagan Coursey's mom. So that's, Reagan's got 4 million followers. So at some point, somebody's going to pay attention to this. I helped raise Reagan in 2006 because I lived in this house that these crimes happened in. Reagan did too. So did her brother. But I have no animus against them. They were fine. And I wish them nothing but well. In fact, I hope Reagan grows to 400 million, to 4 billion followers. I hope every human on the planet, and I recommend that every human follow Reagan Coursey. Because at some point, as I said, somebody's going to pay attention to this, whether it's through Reagan, whether it's through what I'm announcing tonight, or just randomly. And the more people that know Dusty Broadfoot is a would be guilty of first-degree aggravated sexual assault involving minors motivated by hate, the more people who know that, the better. Chanel Miller, a victim of rape in California, wrote a memoir about 10 years ago called Know My Name. Her name's Chanel Miller. Summer Willis carried a mattress on her back while running a marathon and crawled on her hands and knees in another marathon here in Texas for the purpose of bringing awareness to rape and the problem of rape, such as the fact that 80% of sexual assaults in this country are not reported to the police. That's just men. 80% of male victims of sexual assault don't report the sexual assault to the police. 83% of women don't report their sexual assault to the police. Carl Osselbrook, who is now city manager of Roy City, is why. I have all the emails. I've faxed him a request to join me in a $25,000 reward in trying to identify the high school students Dusty Broadfoot was raping, or that she co-conspired with while raping me, depending on how you look at it. He just ignored it. So that's sort of how I got to where I am now. And I just finished a graduate program at the University of Texas at 58 years old. 59, this time last year. Well, I was 50. I finished it in May of last year. I started back to college at 50 because when you live through something like that, report the rape. Even I knew I'm not stupid. I knew I was going to be met with whatever, with intolerance on some level. I didn't know I'd be met with that kind of shit. Now, Dusty Broadfoot, Dusty Miller, and Dusty Coursey, whatever you want to call her, deviant sexual predator, was personal friends with the elected Rockwall County District Attorney at that time. That probably helped her. His name's Galen Ray Sumrow. He was convicted of crimes and sentenced to prison a few years after all this. She used to work for the district attorney's office, so she knew everybody in there, which this is Rockwall, smallest county in Texas. 4 to 6 people. And she was a runner, which means she delivered court documents to people like Carl Ossobrook or the sheriff or other attorneys in this small town in Rockwall, called Rockwall, or Company B, the Texas Rangers, a few miles down the road in Garland. Because Sumrow was he was the favorite of the Texas AG in the 90s and early 2000s in special prosecutions. And Texas Rangers are the ones who investigate in special prosecutions. So this is not conspiratorial. That's who Dusty knew. She knew whoever would be hanging around the Texas Rangers office in Garland. She knew whoever would be at the Rockwall Police. She knew a handful of lawyers probably in Rockwall while she was a runner in high school. And she's the type of girl to flirt with an older guy who piqued her interest. Like a guy who was elected to district attorney who thought that his pants needed 3 legs because his dick was so big, which is Galen Ray Sumrow. That's the kind of people I'm talking about. She's the kind of person who, after she talked me into moving into Rockwall in December of 2005, within a week or 2, she killed her family dog in preparation for being able to sneak the high school students into her backyard in her house in Rockwall, into the house, so that they could watch what she tricked me into doing in that bedroom and record it. She killed her family dog to get away with this. That is the type of person I'm talking about. Keep that in mind as I move forward. Now, I can't say that Ossobrook knew that. I can't say that Sumrow knew, or the Texas Rangers, but they knew Dusty. So they were protecting Dusty. So after all that, I went back to college at 50 and got a political science undergrad at A&M, Texas A&M, then political science grad degree this time last year at UT. Summer Willis was a UT student when she was raped. So I was diagnosed with cancer in 2019. And I could go deep into this, but you have to understand, for anybody who's suffered serious trauma like that, you turn into sort of a walking dead person afterwards, depending on the circumstances. Trauma never goes away. And then for someone like me who decided to report it, I'm not the criminal type. I never engaged with the police in the 40 years of my life before I met Dusty serial rapist Miller, Broadfoot, whatever. But I didn't doubt my government. I knew there'd probably be some corruption within it, etc. But the response that I got was just as bad as the trauma from it was just as bad as the rape. You've heard of victims who describe their experience in the criminal justice system after being raped as being raped a second time. I was serially raped. For the her because of something that she was able to talk me into doing in the bedroom. Targeted. Hate crime rape. And I knew it. As soon as I discovered what happened, I knew it. It's that obvious. She admitted this to the FBI. So I thought, that can't be how it's supposed to work. I decided to go back to college and did. And turned out that's not how it's supposed to work. So when I was diagnosed in 2019 with a year left of my undergrad, first thing that came to mind was there's a solution to the trauma problem. Because no matter what anybody says, I mean, I called RAIN in 2007, as I've said in other videos, and they told me that they didn't help men, victims of rape. Call their 800 number. No, we can't help you. Called Dallas Rape Crisis Center, told me the same thing. Summer Willis reported what happened to her to the police. They told her the same thing. Didn't have anything to do with man or woman. They said there's a loophole in the Texas Penal Code regarding what happened to you. She went to report what happened to her, and she was gaslit. She said in her testimony in front of the committee a couple of months ago that she was targeted. Well, that's different than just being raped. I was targeted. In fact, as soon as I heard targeted, as soon as I heard her say targeted, I didn't have to listen anymore. I turned it off. Because I know. So for me, it was like I was walking around as in a social scientists like Achille and Bimby call it sort of the Walking Dead. You're alive, but you're dead inside, because all the institutional things that were in place that you thought you could rely on and were not so corrupt leading up to the traumatic experience, to the traumatic event, you take for granted that it's going to more or less be there for you when something traumatic happens. And depending on the degree of trauma or how serious the crimes are, afterwards, if what you thought for, in my case, 40 years was nothing like you thought, plus the trauma of the event itself, you just go into shock. It's a perpetual type of shock. So my doctor tells me I've got this cancer. I thought immediately, there's a solution. No more trauma if I want. I don't want to die. I want Dusty Miller to be investigated, indicted, tried, and convicted, and then sentenced. But hold that thought. Remember, the crimes that she did are of vital, knowing the knowledge of them are of vital public interest. She's a child molester, as most people call them. I might take a little issue with the term child because these were 15, 16-year-olds. She started having orgies with these high school students 2 years before I knew her in her garage with her husband. I didn't find that out until later. And she's the one who told me later. So this isn't some rumor. I only have the videos of them in my house when I don't know they are. And Dusty's tricked me into doing things that they're mocking. And that Dusty is the ringleader of. 9 times. So when you find that out, then you go to the police, and they just laugh at you too. So Summer carried there's the bug zapper. Summer carried a mattress on her back for attention, to be a spectacle for the problem of rape. And I don't know if I've said it in this video. 80% don't report what happened to them because police are idiots. 83% of women don't. So in order to fix that, well, first I was diagnosed with the cancer. I just put off any treatment for it. I haven't had treatment, haven't had it checked again in 6 years. So I may have 2 weeks to go. I don't know. I don't know how cancer works. But with all the developments, the Epstein stuff, the Sean Combs stuff, all the victims within the last really 10 years after Me Too who are coming forward, but especially Summer, especially, I read Chanel Miller's memoir twice before I was diagnosed with cancer. No, I think I had cancer the first time I read it. Second time I read it, sorry. The woman in France deciding not to be anonymous to convict her husband, who would invite men, drug her and invite over 50 men over to his house so they could rape her for more than a decade. With all this growing momentum and bringing awareness to rape, I decided I'm not going to get treatment for rape. I'm going to have a cancer treatment strike. Just sort of like a hunger strike, but it's cancer treatment strike. Now, as I said, I know so little about biology or cancer or illness of any kind that I don't know how cancer works. So this may be all for nothing. But I'm pretty sure that cancer, untreated, kills everybody that it infects, or whatever you call it. Which means I'm going to wither and die on the internet while advocating for awareness of rape myth acceptance. And like with hunger strikes, there's always an objective, always a demand. Well, first, I'm not stalking Dusty Broadfoot. I'm not cyber stalking her. I'm not harassing her. And I don't want anybody to. I'm just making people aware that she is not just a public nuisance, she's a public danger. She would be on the sex list, National Sex Registry database, if someone besides Carl Osselbrook was not mocking me back in 2007. So there's that. But I'm not doing anything illegal with regards to her. And I am defaming her, but legally defaming her, because what I'm saying is true. And of everyone in the world, I know it. She knows it. About 5 high school students know it. I suspect that it's not just 5 high school students. I honestly believe that there were adults on a few of the 9 nines. That is to say, I don't believe it was the same 3 to 5 Rockwall high school students all 9 times during 2006. I think there were a couple of nights where some of her adult friends came over. She's a lush. She's that kind of person. And as I've said in the first video I uploaded, I'm offering a $250,000 reward for any one of those people to confess. And they don't have to confess to me. They can do it anonymously if they do to me. But they can also go straight to the Rockwall police. Now, I'm not saying the Rockwall police would take any action, because at least right now, Carl Osselbrook has a motivation to not move forward on what I'm alleging. Keep that in mind. And he's not the only law enforcement officer who has motivation for nobody to know about this. Okay. The objective. In light of the fact that I'm not harassing or stalking or doing anything illegal with regards to Dusty Broadfoot, what will stop me from not receiving treatment is an apology and admission from her. This isn't bribery. Even though she tried to bribe me on November 6th, 2006, when she called my sister-in-law and told my sister-in-law she would drop some other charges against me if I gave her these tapes back. She made, Dusty Broadfoot made that call with knowledge of her crimes on these tapes. And on that night in 2006, I didn't know those crimes were on those tapes that I knew I had. It wasn't until February, 2-3 months later, that I found those crimes. So Dusty called my sister-in-law on that night, December 6th, the day after another one of her Rockwall County assistant district attorneys killed himself because he was caught up in a pedophilia ring. Lewis Conrad Jr., that was her circle. I'm not being conspiratorial. This is just what she told me and what I knew. So the day after November 5th, November 6th, Monday, that night, Dusty calls my sister-in-law and says, if he'll take those tapes back, in desperation, in a panic. She said, if I will put those tapes on her front porch that night, she'll drop every false allegation she made against me. I was acquitted. Nobody believed her. But I didn't. That's bribery. And I do believe that she had the authority to speak on the district attorney, Galen Ray Summerow's behalf, because she's personal friends with him. You know, who knows if Summerow knew or even was involved in any of it? I don't know. I just know he's a corrupt MFer and that she was friends with him. And based on that, and based on the crimes that were on those tapes, I feel like she had the authority to act on his behalf. And I say that because there's some legal considerations that go on when a victim swears to allegations of a crime and then tries to back away from them. I'm not going to go into the weeds on that, but I understand all that. Victims can't recant their statement. They can, but the government really doesn't like it. In fact, I've seen, in some cases, district attorneys file subpoenas to compel testimony from the victims who originally make the charges, and if the victim doesn't show up, they will try to move for criminal contempt, find the victim in criminal contempt for not testifying. I understand all that. I still believe Dusty had the authority to act on the district attorney's behalf when she tried to bribe me that night. This is not bribery, but coincidentally, the tables have exactly turned. I have those tapes. Her crimes are on them. I have cancer. And if I don't get treatment, at some point I will start withering away. And I've seen cancer patients who look pretty terrifying when they're recorded. I've made a decision to hedge. I've made a decision to move forward with dying from cancer unless she apologizes. Now, as I said, it's not a bribe, but as I've tried to explain, there are a couple of interested parties in this that don't want me to become viral. Because, like Carl Osselbrook, the chump that he is, he doesn't want the world to know that let me put it this way. What Dusty did is a epic scandal. It's a conscious shocker. And I don't have to risk that part because I know it's on the tapes, and she does too. So do a few others that I don't know who they are. But it is a scandal that will alter people's trajectory in their careers, I believe. I could be wrong, but someone like Carl Osselbrook, if everybody knew all the details, if everybody knew and understood that Dusty trafficked me with a hate element, and then had somebody that she hated live with her for a year to pay her house payments, and did aggravated sexual assault 9 times. That's kind of next level sociopathy, wouldn't you say? That's what I'm alleging she did. That's what the tapes show she did. It's incontrovertible. Carl Osselbrook was the only person who had jurisdiction, and he refused to act on that. You think the people of Rockwall or Roy City would want to know that about Carl Osselbrook? If what I'm saying is true, you don't have to believe me now, but that day's coming. And it's sooner than before. So, do you think people of Roy City would want to know if Carl Osselbrook discriminated against someone who was victimized to that degree by that level of sociopathic criminal, Dusty Broadfoot? Yeah, they would. I'm not after Carl Osselbrook. I just happen to know game theory and prisoner's dilemma and the Nash equilibrium. You learn these things in international relations. There's some players involved in this that will have an interest in either making sure that I just silently go away, which will never fucking happen. I'm not that type. I was born in Texas. You don't mess with Texas. And I'm straight. I've got that straight white guy ego, male ego. You fuck with me, I'm not going to let you get away with it. I'm going to do whatever I can legally. So don't take anything like this as a threat. I just happen to find myself in a very unique situation now with cancer and an option to receive treatment or not. And if I don't, then the plan is I will start withering away. And if nobody takes any interest or I don't get any attention, I assume and if I just plan on withering away, and if nothing happens at first, which I don't expect anything to happen, at some point I think I'll pick up some steam as far as becoming viral. And then maybe some pressure will be put on the Rockwall County District Attorney's Office, because I don't want anybody to contact Dusty Broadfoot. I don't want anybody. I'm not committing a crime, and I don't want anybody else to. I'm not stupid. I know she's paying attention to what I'm doing. But assuming that she's not, she'll never know. And she might not ever know for my strike to come to an end. Because if the district attorney were to take action, that would compel an apology from Dusty Broadfoot. Because an allocution, usually a convex allocution usually includes an apology to the victim. So the Rockwall County District Attorney could take an action. But this isn't also specifically targeted at Culpepper, who's now the district attorney. I don't know Culpepper from Adam. I know she just happens to be the elected. It's the office of. So if you think of this in terms of a hunger strike, the one institution who could take an action, take the first step, is the Rockwall County District Attorney's Office. I'm only 30 minutes in. And that's okay. But it's not the only institution who can act first, who has to act first for me to get treatment. I mean, who wants to be on the hook for being responsible for someone who decided to go on a strike that like a hunger strike that ultimately will lead to long drawn out, agonizing, torturous death on the internet? I wouldn't want to be. But if you look at this in terms of Dusty Broadfoot, I've come to a decision. First, the decision to go on a cancer treatment strike is a big one. It may not seem like it. I might not get 50 views. I might not get 10 views. I don't know. And that's fine. But it's still a big decision. Because I'm carrying this to the end. The fact that I haven't done anything for 6 years, even get it checked again, should be an indication of my commitment. I mean, as I said, I don't want to die. I don't want to be ignored anymore. I don't like walking around like a valueless person in the state that I grew up in, nation state, not just Texas. That's what it's like. The Walking Dead. Purposeless. Oppressed. So, it's a big decision. And I'm willing to carry it through to, well, all of it. And so, with that, so it's a big decision, and one I don't take lightly. There, as I mentioned, there's interesting game theory considerations. Like, I will say that a criminal conviction of Dusty Broadfoot is not when I say an apology from Dusty Broadfoot, let me put a very fine point on that. Dusty could, let's say she randomly finds out that I've gone on this cancer strike until she apologizes. She can't just apologize, say through her attorney, and that's the end of it. No, she'd have to do the same thing she would have to do if the police investigated her. She can't just, she has to reconcile what she did. And there's details about what she did that she knows and that I know, that only she and I know, and maybe a few others, that she'd have to prove that she did these things, then apologize. This, as I said, I'm not, I would argue there's somewhere between 50 and 75% of criminal acts that she did that I don't even know about. I only know what happened that's on those videotapes. There's more stuff. I guarantee you. She knows that too. But the stuff that she knows I know, but that I've never made public, she'd have to prove that up. So, and she's not going to do this with me. It would have to be through it'd have to be through a third party. So she would have to do this through a third party. I haven't thought through those details. I'm not going to contact that rapist. So there is a path by which she gets ahead of this and confesses and then apologizes. Oh, by the way, there's nothing. I don't want money. Victims don't want money. They want affirmation. They want an apology. The apology is not out of thin air. In the literature, this is talked about a lot, and it's talked. I see it in headlines too. Victims of rape, mostly, believe it or not, from victims of young boy who become adults, victims of rape from the Catholic Church. They just want an apology. They want recognition of the trauma that they suffered by, in this case, the institution of the Catholic Church. Half of my trauma came from the institution of the criminal justice system, starting in Rockwall, Texas. So there's the path where Dusty does that, but there's no NDA, there's no money. And in my mind, that would be the best possible outcome for her. Again, there's prisoner dilemma considerations. She's not that smart, so she will not know what the prisoner's dilemma is, nor will she understand it when she watches a YouTube video on it. There's sophisticated conspiracies, and then there's stupid conspiracies. She was able to get away with a stupid conspiracy. She did it on my back, and now I'm not going to let that happen. So, if she were to, or if a person in her position, let me put it that way, were to say, now's the time, I'm going to confess, I'm going to reconcile, I'm going to prove up what happened through an intermediary or some way that, again, because I'm not pulling a con, I'm a victim, and I want the world to know how sociopathic she is. And I will never shut up. And I have videotapes. and the internet lasts forever. And I can't publish those videotapes right now because it's against the law. But I can when I'm dead. In fact, they could be scheduled to publish every day and need an affirmative action from me in order to prevent them from being published. So I win either way. Either I have no more trauma and I'm dead, and the world finds out just how sociopathic she is through these videos because I'm dead. And there's no laws after that. Or I would think that if somebody in her position were to immediately jump on it, confess, reconcile it, that minimizes the possibility of going viral. Because it prevents me from dying on the internet. Because it's at that point, it's just up to me to get treatment or not. But I would get treatment because I don't want to die. And I want an apology. That's all. So an actor in her position doing that would be in the prisoner's dilemma scenario. That's the best possible outcome from her because it doesn't go through the criminal justice system. The world's going to know she's a deviant sexual predator. Either the world's going to know or however many people I can make know. There's no compromise on that. So she kind of controls how many people know. An actor in her situation does. The Rockwall County District Attorney could decide to compel the police to act on the affidavit that I gave them and investigate, open an investigation and charge her. And even if they did that and indicted her, an indictment is a foregone conclusion. She would be indicted. I know there's a ham sandwich. Anybody could get, a prosecutor can indict a ham sandwich if they wanted. No, she would be indicted because this is a crime. There's no question. She doesn't have to. There's no interrogation of her needed. They can try. They can even show up with iPad and say, "We've got evidence of you doing this, and here you are doing that." She could say, "I'm pleading the fifth." Then they go get an indictment, and then the DA takes it to a jury and let the jury decide. That's fine with me. There's no apology from Dusty, and the government tried. And that's my complaint with the penal code. It doesn't allow for that in too many cases. Let the jurors decide. Broaden it. Broaden the language so that it says non-consensual sex is a crime. Non-consensual sex is rape. And then let the local communities hash it out. Then let the appeals courts decide based on local norms, etc. That's how common law does it. So the DA could take that path, and a not guilty, she would be guilty, but a not guilty would stop me from refusing treatment. But again, almost every way towards an apology from Dusty has a motivated actor who doesn't want me to receive justice. Carl Osselbrook, a former aggravated perjurer FBI agent named Alan Lynn. I mean, these are parts of the scandal that will shock the conscience of anybody who pays attention to it. Dusty knows all this. She really does. So, if she tamps it, if she jumps ahead of it and avoids as much attention as possible, then it sort of fizzles out. But that's okay. Because at the core, this is for me. Yes, our penal code is screwed. No pun. Yes, 75% of the country not believing a straight male, 40-year-old can be a victim of rape. That's bad. And I'll continue to advocate for all this. But the one person in this situation that has the most ability to water it down is Dusty Broadfoot. So I have also decided that I may notify the Rockwall County District Attorney again, even though I've got 2 black eyes for the first time I did. But I was raised to know right from wrong, and I know what Dusty did was wrong, not just morally, criminally. She can't have sex with minors to begin with, so even taking me out of the equation. It's legal for her to kill her dog. I know that. It may be impossible to convict her on trafficking me for financial reasons, deceitfully. But it's not illegal to convict her for rape by inviting her Rockwall orgy buddies into the house. That's illegal. And that's what she'll be faced with having to answer to if she doesn't do anything, and if the Rockwall County District Attorney doesn't do anything. Because at some point, sooner than later, I'll die. And then justice will be had after that. Because I won't be around to stop the scheduled publishing of those videos. So that's the strike. And I'm going to have a drink to it. Vodka. Or no, I did that. I hate alcohol. But it's a big decision. And I don't drink. I really don't. So anybody placing bets on my over and under, I don't drink, I don't smoke, I don't do drugs. So whatever that does to cancer growth, I mean, other than that, I'm healthy. But if nobody does anything, I'm going to die from cancer. And I'm going to die while screaming about Dusty Broadfoot being a rapist. And only wanting an apology in order to get cancer treatment. Whew. Okay, thanks for watching.